Good morning, everyone who has joined us from India, and good evening for the people who have joined us from the other geographic locations. So, I welcome you all to our online session on Sitecore forms. So, speaker for today's session is Madhu. I really appreciate Madhu for accepting our request to host his session on SUGNCR, and I really appreciate because it's really late for you. I mean, it's approximately 12 for your time. So let me give a quick introduction for the session. So Madhu is a senior software engineer and she is currently working for Connective DX based in Boston, US. She has more than 10 years of Sitecore development experience, and she has been a very active member of Sitecore community. She's like constantly giving all the sessions to different user groups for the Sitecore. Madhu, you can hand over the session and then you can start. So, for all our participants who have joined us from the YouTube, if you have any queries regarding the session, you can post your queries on the chat window and we can take it at the end of the session. So, Madhu, you can start now.
Yep. Thanks, Nitish, for the introduction. So I'm going to start the smart experience forms with Sitecore. So basically, these forms were born when Sitecore 9 was released. Before Sitecore 9, it was WFFM, something called web form for the marketers. So those ones were a separate module. You need to install it from the Sitecore marketplace, and you need to enable it by the config file. And this was a constant ask from the Sitecore, like saying on the Sitecore 9 form, they came up with something called forms, and it is integrated into the Sitecore 9 installation itself. And there is no external module or no external config settings or nothing is needed. So as soon as you install Sitecore 9, you should be able to see the icon forms in the experience platform. So it's ready to go. It's part of the Sitecore installation. Nothing is needed for the forms. So you can ready to start as soon as you install Sitecore 9. So what is inside the forms? So forms has 4 types of elements. It's basic, lists, security, and structure. Basic is simple, like text boxes and multi-line text. Any simple controls are basics. List is again drop downs or any list box, any sort of lists. Security is password and password confirmation. Structure is page and section. So I'm going to show everything in a demo section, but I'm going to go with the basic ones a little faster, and then I'm going to focus on the custom ones a little slower. So let me know if I need to slow down, since I'm going to cover up. Since my focus is going to be more in a intermediate or a little bit advanced level. If you have any questions, definitely keep me posted. Let me know if I'm running really fast. So these are the form elements. And then next is the form actions. So form elements are also like very easy to like drag and drop, like how you drag and drop in Visual Studio, like on the toolbox, you drag and drop the controls the same way you do it in forms as well. The same with the forms action as well. So once you submit the form, you can trigger, you can basically bind one of these or one or many of these actions into your form. So it basically, these forms are basically put into a marketing landing page, and the marketing landing page is going to be used as a campaign to send out an email to the customers, to trigger a goal or a trigger a campaign activity. So basically, forms produces a lot of sales and leads. So that's why forms are really important and more powerful, because when you send out the campaigns, you can basically scale out like how the campaign has performed and what is the outcome of the campaign and how many people have submitted the form and how many people just came to a form and saw it and didn't submit it. You can do all sorts of things with the campaign. So it's all ready over there. Once you have the campaign ready, you can come over here and bind the first 4 actions. Either you can trigger an activity or send out an email message, or trigger a goal as an outcome. So the first 4 are related to the campaigns, which does more make sense because all the forms are going to be sent out in a marketing landing page as a campaign to the customers. The last 2 are the simple ones. The redirect to a page is like something you can redirect to an external page, or it depends upon your project requirements. The save data is again one of the powerful because it saves the data into a database, but you don't need a custom DB for this. So before this, you usually create a custom database and then you create your columns based on the form you create. But here, when you install Sitecore 9, it comes with a database called Experience Forms. So whatever is your project underscore experience forms is how it installs the database. So so again, save data is ready to go. You don't need a custom database to put in the data for your forms you create, and it's again dynamic. Um, one simple form can have like only 4 fields. Another long form can have 10 different fields. So it the DB does accommodate how many ever fields you put in. It puts all the data into the DB. I'm going to show how it looks like in the demo session, but I'm just making a point that you don't need an external DB. Here is a simple form. So this one is a really simple one. First name, last name, phone, email, and comments as an optional one, and then terms and conditions and a submit button. So for this form, I haven't coded any code yet in my Visual Studio. That meaning said, like only 2 lines of code is required to build this form, which I'm going to show in my demo session. But this form has a validation is already inbuilt. The phone number validation, the email validation, anything you need, and also you can choose the field as a mandatory or an optional one. Everything is inbuilt in the form. You don't need to write any custom lines for this type of a simple form. And also you can create a little bit more complex forms, like a success and a thank you page. Like on a submit button, you can show, your request has been submitted, we will take action in couple of days or something, any message you wanted to show. So that's again possible. You just need to add a page, and then on the submit button, only a little trick is on the navigation step. You just need to set to next instead of a submit. So that's when the form knows that on the submit, it needs to go to a next page. Can everybody mute yourself, please? So um, so that's when form knows that it can move to the thank you page. So make sure whenever you have the thank you page, make sure your navigation step is set to next. The same way you can do the multi-page form as well. Like all you need to do is add as many pages as you want, and then on the submit button set to next, it should navigate as a wizard. Like you can create a 4-step or a 5-step form with the registration form, which can have multiple pages, or as per your requirements, you can create as many pages as you like. So till here, there is no custom coding needed. So anything with the out of box, you only need 2 lines of code, which I'm going to show it in demo session. So adding it to a web page. So your form is ready then, but how do you add it to a web page? adding it to a web page is like a little different than how you add it to a regular page. So on a regular page, you usually take any of your layout, like a home page layout or any of your layouts you can take. But here, for the forms, you need a special layout, something called MVC layout. You can name it as however you want it. Landing page layout or marketing landing page layout, however you want it, you can name it out. But the most important thing is on the MVC layout, you just need to add these two lines with using sitecore.experienceforms.mvc.html namespace. So all you need to do is render form styles and render form scripts. So these two are really needed to make sure your validation is working, your submit button is working. So before you start, make sure your layout is ready with these two lines. Once this is ready, you are all set to go. You can build as many pages, as many forms as you need. So let me show a demo session. Here is my Sitecore 9.1 install. This is a vanilla install. I don't have anything externally installed or anything. It's a pure Sitecore 9.1 install. So you can see my forms is already over here. I'm just going inside the forms. You can see some of my pre-built forms as a example ones, but I'm going to create a new one so that you guys know how easy and quick to create. And also, once you create the forms, you can store it as a template as well. This could be an easy one for the content authors, or you can give it to the email team. Once they have the template, they can create as many forms they need, and if they need a little tweak, they can do it by themselves as well. Right now, I'm just going to go with a blank form. So whenever you reach out a form, it has a default as a page. So inside that, I'm going to take a section. Section is nothing like a div. It's just a div. So you can put whatever the CSS classes you need. By default, it supports Bootstrap. So if you're a front end, I'm not a front end person, so I'm really bad in front end. But if you know any of your Bootstrap classes you need, you can straight away put it, apply, and save it. You're all set to go. So here is my section. So inside the section, I'm just going to take out a simple one, first name, and then email address. And then I just want to show a drop-down list and then a submit button. So this one, I'm going to say my label is going to be first name. You can name the field as first name or a name. You can choose any default value as well, but I'm just going to put a placeholder text, and you can give a minimum maximum text, the length, and you can set the validation over here. I'm just going to set it as mandatory, and you can also check string length validator. And just going to give a CSS class name called form control. This is the one of the CSS bootstrap classes I know. So I just put the styling and all the field names. So as you can see, I'm just going to say apply, and you can see that the style has been already applied. So the same you can do with all other fields. So I'm just going to go with so this is my email, and you can see that the email validator is already checked. You can go with either mandatory or optional. The same here. Just going to skip all these stuff. Just going to go with the drop down list. So on the drop down list, the data source is going to be, you can choose a static one. You can add as many as you need, or you can go with the dynamic one. So for the dynamic one, you can pick any item from the content tree. So here is my local content. I don't have any settings or a metadata folder, but ideally you will go with the settings folder with whatever the items you wanted to show. You typically put it over here, and I'm just going to choose my home item, and just going to choose my value field as ID, the text field as name. I'm going to apply it, and you can already see the list is populating over here. So the dynamic uh, drop down is very simple. You just need to come here and set up like what node you need, what the content tree node you need. That's it. Um, and on the submit button, I'm just gonna bind to a save data, um, and I'm going to show you like how it saves the data into the database, and you can export the file into a CSV as well. So my form is ready. I'm just going to save it. I'm just going to save it as SUGNCR form. Saved. Back. So now you can see the SUGNCR form. So sometimes people say that once you save the form and once you are back, the form is missing. This was one of the common frequently asked forms question in Stack Exchange or in the Slack channel. So whenever you see that the form is missing, make sure you reindex the master DB. So there is a bug in there. It's only needed for the first time. So whenever you create the form at the first time and you see that the form is missing, make sure you rebuild your master DB. Once you rebuild, that's it. It's going to be always there forever, but it's only happens at the first time. So my form is ready. It just took me only 5 minutes. So I'm going to add it to a web page. So here is my content editor, and I'm going to create a new page. So something called SUGNCR page. So here is my page, and on the presentation details, I'm going to set the form. So the first one you do is make sure you change your layout. So here is my Visual Studio, and here I already have the MVC layout outer layout.cshtml, and you can see those two lines are already there. So my layout is already there. So all I'm going to say is setting up my MVC layout, and on the controls, I'm going to add a control called rendering called MVC form. So it's already there inside the system forms MVC form. Your custom renderings could be somewhere in your feature foundation or project if you are using Helix. But make sure for the forms, come to the systems forms MVC form. Just gonna add MVC form. So I added the MVC form. I'm going to set the data source. So the data source, here are my forms already which are existing. So I'm just going to choose my SUGNCR form. All set, save it, and publish your forms. I'm just going to remove the workflow because the workflow prevents from the publishing. So I'm going to save it. First, publish your forms. So here you can notice I'm gonna publish all the items, and I'm gonna view it in my live mode, not in a preview mode. So that's because always the forms Sitecore recommends to view it in a live mode because when you view it in the preview mode, it cannot do some validations, or it on the submit button it goes into a forms builder, some sort of it doesn't work correctly in the preview mode. So always make sure whenever your form is ready, your page is ready, publish everything out and view it in a live mode or incognito mode, or you can sign out over here and then you can view it in a incognito mode. But I'm just gonna go into the incognito mode, and just gonna type in this page, SUGNCR page. You can view the form though. So I'm just going to view my form over here. You can see the form and the whatever the fields we put in, it's already there. But for the submit, you always make sure to go in your live mode. And I'm just going to fill out a random name. So whenever I hit submit, you can already see my validation is already taking place. Just don't worry about the styling. You can already know like how good I am at with the front end. So I'm just going to fill out SUGNCR, and then the same here, SUGNCR at gmail.com or org, whatever. Just going to choose some items over here and I'm going to submit. So typically over here, you can basically do a thank you page, redirect to a thank you page, or you can bind it to a campaign. So on the submit button, you can do multiple actions. But for now, I'm just doing a simple one. So I submitted the form and I come back. You can either go into a SQL server and you can view the data in the SQL DB, or you can basically come over to the forms. So basically, marketers don't need to go to the SQL server to see like how the form is performing. All they need to do is they can just come over here, choose the form they need, and export the form into a CSV. So this is the button to export. So export the file into a CSV. Open up the CSV, and you can see already. Yes, I can see the SUGNCR, the email, and the drop down I chose. You can see the ID over here because the value field I chose it as ID, but you can choose your name. Um, you can choose the drop down name. So that's how it works. So the simple form and a page and a submit button just takes only 10 minutes to build. So till now, there is no custom code, only those 2 lines of code. So I'm just gonna focus more on the custom ones. So for the custom ones, you do need to write a little bit of code. Basically, it depends upon your project requirements. But you can basically do any sort of a custom submit action or a custom validation or a custom control. Um, it's everything is doable. Little code is involved. So for the custom submit action, you need only simple three steps you need to take. One is go inside the system, Sitecore system settings, form, submit actions, and create your submit action. Once you create the submit action, go into a Visual Studio, create a class file, make sure it inherits from the submit action base, and you override the execute method. Basically, inside the execute method, you can basically uh, prepare a model, call any web API call. It could be a Salesforce call, or it could be any external web API call. Return the Boolean. Once your class is all set, come to the submit action and fill out the model type. That's really important because that's where you're going to mention what is the class file it's going to call when it's bind to the submit action. So that's it. Only 3 steps, which I'm going to show, which I'm going to create one of the submit action in the demo session. I'm going to show it how easy it is. Um, Moving on to the custom validation, the same thing you do. So anything you go for the custom, it's always all the form fields, form submit actions, validations, everything resides inside the system settings forms. So go inside and you can create everything underneath the grouping. Either it could be fields or actions or validations. So here I need a custom validation. So I'm inside the validation folder. Create a validation item. There is already a validation template which is already available. Just create the validation template. The model type is regular expression one. So if you're going with a regular expression one, it's easy. Um, just copy paste the already a regular expression validation from a previous one and put your regular expression in the parameters. So this could be one of the use case scenario I had in my project was to validate a Canadian zip code. So I already know the regular expression, and all I need is a new validator. Everything is possible in regex. So I just created a regex validation and put my regex for the Canadian zip code, and save it, bind it to the field you need, and you are ready to go. And you can put your own regex error message whenever the validation is not working. So this is also similar to the custom submit action, but then again, here you don't need any class file or any code involved. All you need is come up with your regex expression. The next is custom control. The custom control is a little bit more complicated than the submit action or the validation, because it requires the spec 3 knowledge, spec 2 or spec 3 knowledge based upon the Sitecore version you have. This involves the first three steps are really simple, the same as the previous one. Create your field template, create a new class, the razor view. The 4 and 5 are you need to go into the core database, go inside the spec 3. You need to add some fields, come back, bind it. That's what the 4, 5, 6 steps are. There are good Sitecore documentation already available in the custom control, but I'm going to also show it and show a custom. I'm going to create a custom control as well in the demo session. So, but before you create a custom control, um, make sure you come to the form extensions and see if any of your custom control is already there. So, because always on the forms, the Google reCAPTCHA, the rich text field, the hidden field, the advanced email action, these are the most frequently asked requirements always from the client. So before you create the custom control, because each custom control requires at least a day or two to build and test it out. Before you spend some time, come over here. If your custom control is already here, you are lucky. You just need to install the form extensions in your Sitecore, and you are ready to go. So before you spend some time, make sure you come here to the form extensions and check out the control is already there. So this was for the Sitecore 9.1, 9.0, but latest one has a Sitecore 9.1 version as well. So that's the form extensions. It's a separate module, but I felt like this is a very good one because the forms requirements always requires the Google reCAPTCHA or the rich text field. Some of them are really most frequently asked one. So make sure you check out the form extensions before you build your custom control. One other thing you can do in the form is you can basically see how many how the form is performing, or how is the each. You can also do each field as well, so, for example, a date of birth field can have, validation, or email field has a validation. People spend some time to, to see whether it's MMDDYY or DDMMYY. So, so you can see like each one of them. Basically, you click on the each field and you can go into the performance tab, and you can see how each field is performing or how the form is performing. You can see everything right over there from the out of the box forms. So what's new in Sitecore 9.1 and 9.2? Sitecore 9.1 has a big feature called conditional access. So basically, you can show or hide any of the fields based upon the user requirements. This is also one of the most frequently asked requirements in forms because you wanted to show or hide based upon like if you are any use case scenario you can come up with on a drop down list or to any field you need. I'm going to show a demo as well on this conditional access because this is little different than how we write the condition out in C sharp. So I'm going to show this in a demo section. And the other one is you can save the form in folders. Like when you create the templates, basically you can create your template folder and you can save it inside the templates. Or this is basically for the arrangement how the forms looks like. Basically, if you have hundreds of forms, you can arrange them in a neat way of folders. And also you can control the security access. If you don't want to give the forms to content authors or to an email team or a marketing team, you can definitely go to the control security access and give the role to the forms to make sure you don't need to give the permission to show the forms. You can pre-fill the forms as well. This is possible with the value providers. That's again one of the Sitecore 9.1 new feature forms. Sitecore 9.2 is going to be released. What's new in Sitecore 9.2? It's going to be SXA and JSS and forms. So I'm really excited to try when Sitecore 9 is released. But if you are in the Circon, there was already a little presentation on how the forms is interacting with JSS and SXA. So so I'm really excited to try out in 9.2 whenever it's released. It's a little demo time. So I'm just going to go here. I'm going to start creating the custom ones. So let me go inside the content editor. Just going to go inside system settings, forms. I'm going to create a custom submit action right now. So I'm just going to right click, insert, submit action. So I'm just going to create a submit action called, again, SUGNCR submit action. So once I created, you can see the model type, the error message, and the editor. Editor is not needed because if you have any spec 3 ones, that's when the editor comes into picture. All you need is the model type and an error message. Model type is the one where you need to take out a class file. So I'm here inside my Visual Studio. Here is a class I have. I have already have a class called custom submit action.cs file. You can see that it's already inheriting from submit action base. So and I'm overriding the execute action inside the execute action, and again it calls the execute method. So inside the execute, um, here is my custom code which I commented out because it could be anything for your requirements. Basically, I'm preparing a model over here, calling a Salesforce, and then again I'm passing the same information to a XConnect with the XDB contact helper, and then returning the boolean based upon my API call and the XDB contact creation. So one little thing to know is when you're preparing a model, everything, all the form data, everything is in the form submit context. But in order to retrieve the fields, you need some reflection to retrieve the data. So you can see already it's something I created a method called get value. Inside the get value, I'm using the reflection to get the data out. So this is for a simple, so this works for a simple text field, a single line text or a multi-line text. But if you have a drop down or a list box, this needs to be modified a little bit more to get the data from the drop down list. I have a blog about the custom submit action, and I have a value for both a simple single line text and as well as for the list box or a drop down list. So make sure if you are reading it from the form submit context, make sure you use your reflection to get the data out. That's the only little tricky part over here. Once you have the data, you can do anything, any call or X Connect or XDB. You can do basically everything, whatever you need according to your project requirements. So here I have my classes ready. So all I need is I'm just going to take out the namespace and a class, and I'm going to fill out in the model type. So just took the class name. Just going to take the namespace. So I'm just going to take the namespace. Um, Error message, something like a custom action failed. That's it. Save it. So I have my submit action ready. Just going to go into just going to duplicate this one out to a forms. So going inside the SUGNCR form, here is my submit button, and you can already see the SUGNCR submit action is already there. So you can bind it, you can move up or move down based upon, and also you can do multiple actions. I can trigger a goal. Basically you need a campaign over here, and I don't have a campaign already created, but in your practical project, you might have campaigns already available, so you can bind it anything over here, apply and save. That's it. You're all ready to go for the custom submit action. The same for the validation as well. So I'm here inside the validation. Going to create from a template something called a validation template. It pre-selects it already, so makes it easier. SUGNCR validation. So you can, the type, I know that it's going to be regex validation. So I'm just going to take out the regex ones. Message, you can put like whatever message, invalid. Um, so I'm just going to put a zip code over here, invalid zip code. And here is your regex ones you need to fill out. Once you fill out, save it out. I'm assuming I have filled out a regex over here. So so my validation is ready, but I need to bind it to a field, right? So I'm just going to go with say for example on I don't know what field I can choose, but I'm just going to go with a single line text for now. So and you can see already the SUGNCR validation is there. Choose it. You can basically up or down based upon your needs. Save it. So this is my single line text. So I'm just going inside the form again. I'm going to drag and drop a single line text, and you can see my SUGNCR validation is already there. All you need to do is check it out, apply, save. You're ready to go. So this is still the validation and the submit action. So for the custom control, I'm going to show a simple one. So I have a project requirement where they wanted to group the drop downs based upon the regions. Like they wanted to show US, and then inside the US, all the states, Canada, and then inside the Canada, they wanted to show all the states. So they wanted to group the regions and then show the each one out. So this requirements, I know that there is a drop down list already existing. So all I need to do is I just need to expand a little bit as a grouped drop down. So what I did was just created a custom field, um, um, same as like how you can either duplicate this one or you can create your own. So so over here, you can basically take a class file and a razor view. So here is my class file, a state dropdown.cs file and a razor view. So inside the razor view, I'm just calling a regions method. Um, you can either put it in a init as well, but I'm just calling it separately in my view. So here I'm calling my data source, and then once I have the data source, setting the name value fields, come over to the CSHTML, do a for each loop of the regions, and inside the each region, showing the grouped one for the region. And then inside the group, I'm just showing all the states inside the region. So this is a very simple one. But on the class file, I'm just inheriting from the drop down list view model. So this is the default one. I'm just inheriting it from here. And on the CSHTML, I'm just binding the values. One important thing to notice over here, you can see some of the fields I have put in over here in the CSHTML, because these are really needed, because on the forms, basically when you submit it, it validates your script. So whenever, let me show something over here. So any forms you go over here, just going with the SUGNCR form, you can see over the scripts, it's already doing the jQuery validation, the Ajax unobstructive one. All those validation takes place by default from here. These are the ones, whenever you do the validation, these are the ones which gets executed. But if you don't have these in your forms, this one generate the unobstructive validation attributes, and also make sure at the end you do this HTML validation message for as well. So how I got these ones, as you can ask. So how I got this is basically all the default ones goes into the forms view builder. So basically I'm over here in the C init pub root. So I have my SC files. So if I go into the views, you can see the form builder out here inside the field templates. So whatever is the fields you see in the form elements, everything is over here. So basically I extended the drop down list. So if you go over here with the drop down list.cshtml, so I'm just going to put my notepad over here. So you can already see the CSHTML view here, and at the end you can see the HT. You can add these all data SC tracking, data SC field name, everything out, and make sure you have this generate unobstructive one, and as well as the validation message. So this is how I got it. So basically, if you are extending any of your CSHTML ones, or if you are creating a new one which requires a validation, make sure you have these ones out in your custom controls. So once you have that ready, and come over here to your custom drop down, and fill out your view path where the view is going to be, and fill out your class name file with the namespace. And any validations you need, you can pick your custom ones. And this is the property editor. This is the one I said, like, this requires the spec3 knowledge. But this one is a simple one where I extended the drop down list into a group drop down, and I know that the drop down list is already existing, so I just picked it up from the existing one. If you need a new one, this one is coming from the core database. So when you go to the core, you basically create your own custom control, and and the fields you need, and you come out over here and bind it to the custom control you need. So this is how the custom control works. Save it, and I'm just going back to the forms to see whether my whether my custom control is already there. So here is my form. Just going inside the list, and you can see my grouped drop down is already there. You can just drag and drop and you are ready to go. And so this is how you create your custom form fields, validations, submit actions. Um, it's really straightforward one. I don't think any coding is required, but not to a extent. You can also do some of the cool stuff in with forms. Like every form is Ajax enabled one. So whenever you do the submit action, you don't see the post back. It's always it's Ajax enabled. You can see that the checkbox is already there. If you don't want, if you wanted a post back, you can uncheck this. But by default, everything is Ajax. And the one more thing is the Sitecore 9.1, the conditional access. So here is my form. Let me go to one of the forms I added. So here is my form. I created a simple form called how many attendees are there in the form. I just wanted to know. So whenever you pick one, I wanted to show this section. When you pick two, I wanted to show this section. So how this works is, let me go inside the page, and I just wanted to show how this page looks like. So here is my conditional access page. So I'm just going to go here. Just a simple drop down. It's empty now. Just going to pick one attendee, and attendee number one, first name, last name is showing up. Attendee number two, the two text boxes are showing up. So basically, I need to write the logic around the drop down box over here. So this looks like very simple, right? How I write the logic is, let me go inside the form. So here is my drop down. I already have the conditions listed out over here, but I'm just going to go into a different section. Just I'm pretending that I'm going to add a condition. So here I'm just going to add a condition. So I'm going to say attendees is my drop down list is equal to empty. Then I wanted to hide both attendee section 1, hide, add attendee number section 2 is hide, right? Then I'm going to add another condition when it's equal to 1 and another condition when it's equal to 2, right? So I'm assuming everyone is following me. Please let me know if I need to slow down. The other condition I'm going to add is when the attendees is equal to 2, I'm going to show both the sections. So this is how I typically return the condition. But then when I went inside once I published the form and checked out the conditions, it wasn't working as what I expected. So this is a simple logic. Basically, like this is how I write it in C#. The same way I'm writing it over here as well. Not in a C#, generally a flow chart. Even when you take, it's a very simple one. When it's empty, hide both. When it's 1, hide one, show one of the sections. When it's 2, show both the sections, right? This is a very simple one. But when you write like this, it won't work like it. Let me show you what I have written for this drop down. So here is my condition. Let me show it in a bigger mode. So this is the condition I have written. Let me show it a bigger one. So I said my condition 1 is when the attendees is equal to 2, then show both the sections. That makes sense. And then my second condition is if the attendees is equal to empty, then hide attendee section 1. That's it. There is no third condition for when it's equal to 1. Or even in the condition 2, I'm not saying like hide both. I'm just saying only hide attendee section 1. So don't you think that this looks weird? This is because Sitecore execute in a different way. How it executes is um, basically it inverts. So whenever the condition is false, it inverts the selected action. So um, so basically it executes the first condition and the condition is false. So it inverts the selected action, which means it hides the section 1 and 2. So the same for the drop down selection 1 and 2. So if you have a condition section needs to be applied to the form, make sure if the condition is false, it puts the inverse selected action into the form. So if you write the simple logic, uh, it won't work. Always think in your head that you need to write a logic based upon your inverse selected action when the condition is false. So for this form, it took me a couple of hours to figure out like how this works. But once I figured out, I felt like much better, because I know that the Sitecore is gonna do it uh, by each one of them, and whenever it's false, it's gonna inverse the action. So that's something with the conditional forms, but it's very easy to implement, and it's very, very helpful in Sitecore 9.1 forms. And apart from this, you can do some cool things as well. Like you can see the unique views and the performance, everything over here. And also you can basically give a thumbnail as well to your forms. So you can choose whatever the thumbnail you need. I'm just going to pick a BlackBerry. I'm just missing my support phone. So I'm just going to pick my BlackBerry over here. Select, apply, save, come back. You can see my form has the icon, the thumbnail. And also you can save the forms inside the folders. So basically you go inside the form. You can say save as a form template, or you can save as a new one. I think move it to a folder is over here. So I'm just going to move the SUGNCR form into a folder. So I'm just going to say move the form to another location. So inside the forms, I already have a couple of folders created. So I'm just going to move it inside the custom forms. And so that's it. It already says the form is moved to the custom forms. So let me go into the content editor and come to the forms. And you can see inside the forms, the SUGNCR is already moved inside the folder. So this way, basically, you can arrange all the templates inside the templates folder, custom forms, or any of the folders based upon your requirements. You can create and arrange it in a good way. So those all are new to Sitecore 9.1 forms. And let me show some more information. So what happens to the WFFM? It's no longer there. There is a support package for Sitecore 9 where you can migrate, where you can install the package, and still your WFFM will be working. But from the Sitecore 9.1, there is no support for WFFM. You have to migrate your WFFM to forms. But the good thing is, just a few days before, there is a conversion tool called WFFM conversion tool, which was done by um, Faniolo. That's how you pronounce your last name, and he has done a very good job of migrating the forms into WFFM into a forms. So if your project has WFFM, make sure you come over here, check out the tool. I'm sure it's going to make your life simpler. So that's all about WFFM. Some of the common errors I always see in the Stack Exchange or in the forms is form is missing, which I already mentioned about it, don't forget to rebuild your master index. The another one is on the submit button, it's always redirecting to the forms builder. So if you're seeing this, make sure your form is published and you are in a live mode, and your layout has these two lines of code. And the other common mistake, other common errors I usually see is on the submit button, you are getting the anti-forgery cookie is not present. If this happens, make sure your form or your container level, anywhere the rendering is not cached. If it is cached, make sure you uncheck it, publish it. You should be all set to go. Here are the good blog resources I found when I was learning forms. The first one is a YouTube one for 20 minutes by Dylan Young. He's a Sitecore MVP, works for Connective DX. If you're new to forms, I strongly recommend watching the video. This gives a very good idea of where to start from forms. There are some other good blog resources for custom submit action, custom forms, or a success message or a thank you page. So these are the blog resources you can refer. And finally, if you're not on Sitecore Stack Exchange or not on WFFM Forms channel, please join. If you have any of your troubles, keep keep asking the questions inside the either one of the channels. People are really active and make sure your issue gets resolved. So please do join these channels, and thank you for listening. I'll take some questions.
Thanks, Madhu, for the session. So we have got a question from Bansidhar. So what he's asking,
Mhm.
like, so we have a next action on our forms, like which is used to navigate from section 1 to section 2, right? So is it
Mhm.
possible to add some action on that our next buttons, such that like adding data to the database or some email campaign on our next button?
Yes, it is possible. Basically, on the submit button, though it's navigating to a next, a thank you page or to a different page, you can always bind it to a save data or your campaign or any of your actions over there.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
guys, if you have any more questions, you can drop your queries on the chat window. We'll be taking the questions for a few minutes and then we can wrap up the session. So, we don't have any no questions for now. So,
Okay.
thanks, Madhu, for this great session. You provided a very in-depth analysis on the forms and very great details about the Sitecore forms. It's really helpful. So,
Thank you so much. I hope it's same for everybody, and I hope I covered it from the beginner to an intermediate level. And if you have any questions, always reach out to me on Slack or on Twitter or on these channels.
yep. So, thanks everyone. So, I'm wrapping up the session now.
Thank you, Nitish and Gaurav, for making this happen. I really appreciate your effort, guys. Thank
Okay,
you so
thanks.
much.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.